Okay, this is a graph of the moving average case fatality rate, or the death rate. Case fatality rate is the number of deaths divided by the number of cases. And I've got most of the countries in the plot here, and it starts from September 2020. You can see that it's been hovering around 4% for most of the time. It may have been actually higher because there were lots of excess deaths that were not recorded as COVID. Earlier in 2020, when it first started, the case fatality rate in the UK was something like 15%, and in Mexico was at one time about 13%, and Italy as well was also very high, and the USA too. But what's happened is most since Omicron came into the picture, which is, I can't seem to get the date here, somewhere around here, you can see that there's a big dip in, and we're going to zoom the graph in to have a really good look at this. So Omicron came into the picture just around here sometime. You can see all the case fatality rates dropped. Everyone's gone down to less than 1%, minus a few countries like South Africa. South Africa went down to like 0.1%, and then climbed back up to 8%. And I was worried that this may be due to the other variant, the BA.2, because it had a high prevalence, and it also worried because the Philippines did the same thing as well. You see, in January it dropped down to 0.1, then it went up again, and that also has a high prevalence of BA.2. The other place was Hong Kong. Hong Kong suddenly had this death rate which sort of went up to 3, running death rate, which went up to about 3%. Trying to think which other country is high. I think they are the ones, the highest prevalence. Denmark has a high prevalence of BA.2, but that has a very low death rate. I can't even find it on my map here. But let's zoom in a little bit more here. And there's a couple of interesting things. Well, South Africa is certainly starting to fall, but it hasn't fallen right down to 0.1 again. It's hovering just above 1%. The other interesting thing is the USA is slowly starting to climb up again. The Philippines, that may be due to not counting the case numbers. It's really hard to tell. Some other countries are also showing signs of, just increasing slightly, like Argentina. A lot of these countries all showing the same thing, but that also could be because they're not counting the case numbers, because Omicron is generally a lot milder, so lots of people don't get so sick. So the number may look like it's going up. So South Africa is still the one to keep an eye on. And the USA, I don't know what's going on there. So I could get rid of some of these countries. Australia's pretty much 0.1. Actually, I'll leave it there for a while. I'll get rid of Bangladesh. Belgium's no interest. Brazil. Let's try to keep just a few. Croatia, Cuba, Cyprus. Denmark, I probably wanted to keep. Denmark is practically 0.1. They've actually even classified it as a flu now, I think. France, Germany, Ghana, Greece, Hong Kong will leave, Hungary, Iceland, Indonesia, Italy will leave, Mexico, Myanmar out, Netherlands is very, very low. Wow. Look at Netherlands. That's less than 0.1%. Maybe they're counting all. Okay, New Zealand, I'll worry about. Norway, Pakistan, Paraguay, Peru, Philippines. Philippines I should have left in, so I got to get the Philippines and Russia will keep. Serbia, Singapore, Slovenia, South Africa, South Korea's recently had a lot of cases, but its death rate hasn't shot up. It's right down there somewhere at 0.1%. So we'll get rid of that. Spain, Sri Lanka, Sweden. What's happened to Sweden? Where's Sweden? Sweden just seems to be going up a little bit. That's a bit strange. I mean, this is 2022 basically here. That's 2022, and Sweden has made a bit of a move like the USA. So I wonder if that's BA.2. I would have to look at some other stuff. Switzerland, I don't care about. Taiwan, nothing much happening. Taiwan, Turkey, where's Turkey? Turkey, can't see it. It's not too much. There it is, Turkey. Very low. That looks like it's 0.1%. Forget about that. Ukraine's at war, so we can't trust the data there. United Kingdom is pretty low. Ever so slight rise, but not much. USA is funny, like we said. Vietnam. What's happened to Vietnam? Vietnam, the case fatality rates dropped right out of it. So I wanted to Italy. Anything Italy? Italy's ever so slight rise. We'll get rid of that one. Russia. What's happening in Russia? Russia went right down to like 0.2%, and that ever so slight rise again. They are not highly vaccinated anyhow, so we're going to get rid of them. We've seen Sweden, South Africa I'll keep, Germany. What's happened in Germany? Germany's gone right down to 0.1. We can get rid of Germany. France is practically out of the picture. Australia and Singapore out of the picture as well. Australia, Singapore, Canada hasn't quite went down to 0.1, but there's showing a slight, or 0.2, showing a slight rise going up to like almost 1%. We'll get rid of that one. France is fine. Singapore's fine. So Philippines, the one, and Denmark and Philippines. Denmark has a high prevalence of BA.2. It went right down to 0.1, 0.07, and now has sort of risen up slightly to 0.2. So I don't know if that's BA.2 that's coming into effect or not. I want to also include the Philippines. Mind you can't trust the data from a lot of these countries because they might not be doing a lot of testing. So it may look like the Philippines has a high case fatality rate. Here it went up to 8, above 8%, but that might be because they're not counting the cases. But that shouldn't be the case in the USA, and shouldn't be the case in Hong Kong. So that's the concern, that these, not the USA, but these other countries have a high prevalence of BA.2. I think the USA has a high prevalence of BA.1.1 as opposed to BA.2. Australia is going to be an interesting one to look at because it's starting to grow in BA.2. I took it off the graph here. But Australia, it sort of went right down and it's gone up and coming down again. It's not clear what's going on there. So it's still interesting.